Why did Cary Grant never reveal his hidden life with Randolph Scott? Cary Grant's real name was Archie Leach. He was born on January 18, 1904, in the industrial port city of Bristol, England. His childhood was steeped in hardship and emotional trauma. His father was often absent and eventually abandoned the family, starting a new life with another woman. His mother suffered from severe mental health issues, diagnosed with psychotic depression, and was institutionalized when Archie was just 11 years old. Raised partly by his grandmother, his young years were marked by uncertainty, poverty, and a desperate yearning for stability and affection. Growing up in such difficult circumstances, young Archie found solace and escape in performance. He was drawn to the theater and, at the remarkably young age of 14, he fabricated his age to join a troupe of acrobatic comedians known as the Penders. His time with the Penders exposed him to the itinerant life of a performer, teaching him agility, timing, and crucially, the ability to transform himself to adopt a persona. Archie Leach's journey brought him to the United States with the Penders troupe in 1920. While the group eventually disbanded after a less than successful tour, Archie, captivated by the possibilities of the new world, chose to stay. He tried to make a living in New York, taking on various odd jobs, performing in vaudeville shows, and auditioning for roles on Broadway. He possessed a natural charm and a striking appearance, but true success on the stage remained elusive. The industry was competitive, and his Englishness, while sometimes an asset, needed refining for American audiences. By the late 1920s, seeing the burgeoning film industry in California, like countless other aspiring performers, he turned his gaze westward towards Hollywood, the land of dreams and reinvention, hoping the silver screen would offer the recognition and escape he craved. His initial years in Hollywood were a continuation of the struggle he had known in New York. He landed small roles, often credited as Archie Leach, playing minor characters that did little to hint at the global superstar he would become. Studio executives and producers took note of his good looks and potential, but felt that the name Archie Leach lacked star quality. They also worked to soften his distinct Bristolian accent, encouraging him to adopt a more neutral, mid-Atlantic tone that would appeal to a wider American audience. The calculated gamble paid off handsomely. By the mid-1930s, having signed with Paramount Pictures and later Radio Keith Orpheum, Cary Grant's career exploded. His innate comedic timing, coupled with his striking good looks and newfound sophisticated demeanor, made him a perfect fit for the fast-paced screwball comedies that were popular at the time. Films like Bringing Up Baby, 1938, opposite Katharine Hepburn, Holiday, 1938, and His Girl Friday, 1940, with Rosalind Russell, cemented his status as a top-tier comedic actor. He later transitioned seamlessly into romantic dramas and, famously, into sophisticated thrillers with legendary director Alfred Hitchcock, including Suspicion, 1941, Notorious, 1946, To Catch a Thief, 1955, and North by Northwest, 1959. These roles solidified his position as one of Hollywood's most versatile and enduring leading men, a star who transcended genres. Crucially, throughout his rise and reign, his public image was meticulously curated and aggressively marketed as the ultimate ladies' man. His studios and his publicity team worked tirelessly to present him as the ideal romantic lead, the object of feminine fantasy. He was consistently paired with the most beautiful and talented actresses of the era: Katharine Hepburn, Irene Dunne, Jean Arthur, Grace Kelly, Deborah Kerr, Ingrid Bergman, Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Loren. Publicity photographs, magazine articles, and the narrative woven around his film roles all consistently reinforced the image of Cary Grant as a man effortlessly irresistible to women, a sophisticated bachelor or desirable husband who navigated romantic entanglements with charm and ease. While Cary Grant was perfecting his image as the sophisticated urbanite and romantic lead, another actor, quite different in style and persona, was quietly building his own legacy, representing a different, equally potent facet of American masculinity: Randolph Scott. Born George Randolph Scott on January 23, 1898, into a respected Southern family in Virginia, Scott embodied quiet strength, integrity, and ruggedness. He grew up with an affinity for the outdoors, excelled in sports, and possessed a reserved, almost stoic demeanor that would later define his screen persona. He also arrived in Los Angeles in the late 1920s, drawn by the promise of the burgeoning film industry and perhaps connections his family had. His early career, much like Grant's, involved smaller roles across various genres: comedies, dramas, musicals, and early Western. He didn't have the effervescent wit of Grant, but he possessed a commanding physical presence, a quiet intensity, and an undeniable handsomeness that caught the eye of casting directors. By the 1940s and 50s, he would find his true niche, becoming one of the most recognizable and respected stars of the Western genre, portraying honorable, laconic heroes in countless films. Their paths crossed in the vibrant, competitive, and often lonely world of early Hollywood. Beginning in the early 1930s, likely around 1932 or 1933, Cary Grant and Randolph Scott became roommates. This wasn't a short-term, temporary arrangement. For over a decade, until roughly 1942 or 1943, they shared a spacious, luxurious beach house in Santa Monica, a desirable coastal enclave near the major studios. Publicly, their living situation was presented to the press and the public as that of bachelor roommates, a narrative that was, at face value, plausible for actors in that era. Newspapers and fan magazines ran articles about their shared life, often accompanied by a seemingly endless stream of photographs depicting them in casual, domestic settings, lounging by their pool, playing cards, having breakfast together on the patio, lifting weights, or simply relaxing side by side. But even at the time, for some astute observers within the industry and later for biographers and historians looking back with different cultural perspectives, there was something unusual about the depth, the duration, and the public presentation of this living arrangement. Why would two increasingly successful, financially independent actors, both capable of affording their own substantial residences, choose to share a single home for over 10 years? Why the constant stream of publicity photos specifically focusing on their shared domestic life, showcasing a level of comfort and intimacy that seems to go beyond typical platonic friendship, even for the time? Was this merely a convenient financial arrangement or a reflection of a far deeper bond, deliberately presented as friendship to avoid suspicion? These questions, subtly present even then, would later become central to one of Hollywood's most persistent, intriguing, and, for some, most explosive mysteries. The central drama and enduring fascination surrounding Cary Grant and Randolph Scott stem from the widespread and compelling speculation supported by various pieces of evidence, anecdotal testimony, and historical context, that both men were gay or bisexual, and that their intensely close relationship for over a decade was not merely a friendship, but a romantic partnership. Their decision to live together for such a protracted period, during the prime of their lives and careers, is often cited as the most significant and persuasive indicator of this hidden truth. To understand the weight of this speculation, one must first grasp the harsh realities of Hollywood during the 1930s, 40s, and 50s concerning homosexuality. Being openly gay in this era was not just a career impediment, it was, almost without exception, career suicide. The powerful studio system exercised near total control over the public image of its stars. Contracts often included stringent morality clauses that allowed studios to fire actors for any behavior deemed scandalous or damaging to their public image, and homosexuality topped that list. Any hint or whisper of being gay could lead to immediate termination of contracts, blacklisting from future work, and complete social ostracism within the industry and from the adoring public. For actors like Cary Grant, whose entire meticulously crafted image revolved around being a debonair, desirable heterosexual romantic leading man, and Randolph Scott, the rugged, upright emblem of traditional American masculinity and frontier heroism. Any revelation about being gay was not just a personal disaster. It was an existential threat to their careers, their financial security, and the carefully constructed public personas that were their livelihood. The pressure to conform to heterosexual norms, both on-screen and off, was immense. Studios actively managed the private lives of their stars to prevent any scandal. They would arrange dates between actors for publicity, encourage or even orchestrate quick, often short-lived, strategic marriages to provide a heterosexual cover, and aggressively silence any rumor, gossip, or suggestions of homosexuality through threats, payoffs, and carefully controlled public narratives. The story of Cary Grant and Randolph Scott's shared life is seen by many as a prime example of how individuals navigated this oppressive system, finding ways to be together while presenting their relationship in a way that was deemed acceptable or at least not explicitly scandalous, to the studios and the public. The evidence supporting the theory of a romantic relationship between Cary Grant and Randolph Scott is multifaceted and, while not consisting of undeniable, irrefutable proof like a signed confession or compromising photograph by today's standards, is considered highly compelling and persuasive by numerous biographers, film historians, and individuals who were close to the stars or heard accounts from those who were present during that era. As mentioned, living together for over 10 years was an extraordinarily long period for two single, financially independent, successful men to share a single residence, particularly during the prime of their youth and careers. It wasn't just a temporary living arrangement while they found separate places or saved money. It was a sustained domestic partnership. The Santa Monica beach house wasn't merely a convenient place to crash. It was their established home, their sanctuary, the place where they reportedly spent the majority of their private time when not working on film sets. This longevity and shared living arrangement, far exceeding typical roommate scenarios, is seen by many as strongly indicative of a deeper, committed bond. The numerous publicity photos taken of them at the beach house are perhaps the most tangible and widely analyzed evidence. While it's acknowledged that many such photos of stars were staged for magazines to portray them as attractive, available bachelors or glamorous couples, the sheer volume, consistency, and, for some, the perceived intimacy of the Grant-Scott photos stand out. Biographers and historians who support the theory point to these images, meticulously analyzing poses, body language, and settings that, they argue, suggest a comfortable, relaxed, long-standing, and deeply connected partnership that seems to transcend mere platonic friendship. Photos show them lounging together side by the pool, often in casual, similar attire, sharing meals, exercising together, or simply relaxing in close proximity, exhibiting a level of physical comfort and ease with each other that, when viewed through the lens of the time's intense pressure to project heterosexuality, is seen by many as highly revealing. These weren't photos taken on a restrictive film set. They were photos meant to portray their real private life, and what they chose to portray was an unusually close, domestically established unit. The argument is made that these photos, while ostensibly promoting bachelorhood, inadvertently captured or even deliberately hinted at the unconventional intimacy of their relationship in a way that might have flown under the radar of a public less attuned to such visual subtext, but is clearer in retrospect. The rumors about Cary Grant's sexuality have persisted for decades, often tied directly to his period living with Randolph Scott. Numerous accounts, though frequently second-hand, reported years or even decades later, or found in biographies based on interviews with people from the era, describe how various individuals within the industry or those who worked for them perceived their relationship. Stories circulated within Hollywood circles that staff at the Santa Monica house, such as housekeepers or gardeners, discreetly referred to them as the couple or commented on their domestic routines resembling those of a married couple. Some biographers claim that close friends or associates from the time privately understood the true nature of their bond, speaking of it guardedly and using euphemisms. While these anecdotes are challenging to verify definitively so many years later, the sheer volume, consistency, and source of these whispers within Hollywood circles lend significant weight to the speculation, suggesting that among those who knew them well enough to observe their private lives, the truth, or at least a very strong suspicion of it, was an open secret, spoken of only in hushed tones. Perhaps the most compelling single piece of alleged evidence comes indirectly from Randolph Scott himself, as reported in various biographies and accounts based on interviews with Scott's friends later in his life. As noted in information from other sources, late in his life, after Grant had passed away and societal attitudes had begun to shift slightly, Randolph Scott reportedly spoke candidly with a friend and, in a moment of reflection or confession, named 6 prominent actors he knew personally who were gay but had been forced by the pressures of the era to live their lives in secrecy. Cary Grant was at the very top of that list. Coming from the other person directly involved in the relationship, this alleged confession is viewed by many proponents of the theory as a powerful, near-definitive confirmation of the long-standing rumors and the true nature of their shared life at the Santa Monica house. It suggests that even Scott, the famously private and reserved Western star, eventually acknowledged the truth of their hidden identities and, by direct implication, the nature of their deep bond during that decade. Based on this accumulation of intertwined evidence, the prolonged and domestically oriented shared home life, the numerous and sometimes intimately interpreted publicity photographs, the persistent insider anecdotes and whispers passed down through the years, and Randolph Scott's significant reported later acknowledgement, many biographers, film historians, and commentators have concluded that the most plausible and compelling explanation for the intensely close relationship between Cary Grant and Randolph Scott during the 1930s and early 1940s is that they were in a committed romantic relationship. Their shared life in the Santa Monica beach house was not merely a convenient or platonic arrangement. It was, according to this interpretation, their attempt to create a private world, a haven where they could be themselves and share their lives together away from the constant, scrutinizing, and unforgiving gaze of a homophobic industry and society. The emotional and psychological toll of being forced to live such a deeply closeted life, especially for individuals as famous and constantly in the public eye as Cary Grant and Randolph Scott, must have been immense, even devastating. For Cary Grant, who worked so meticulously and tirelessly to craft and maintain the perfect, effortless image of Cary Grant, the constant need to hide his true self, to perform heterosexuality both on screen and off, to manage the secrecy of his private life, and perhaps to engage in public relationships that were not truly reflective of his deepest affections, must have been a heavy, exhausting burden. It added yet another layer of artifice to a man who already felt, according to some accounts, that he was constantly playing a role, even when not on a film set. The ladies' man persona that brought him immense fame, fortune, and adoration was also, in this interpretation, a gilded cage, trapping him within a public identity that was fundamentally at odds with his perceived true nature. Similarly, Randolph Scott, the quiet, upright Western hero, carried his own burden of secrecy, maintaining a stoic, reliable facade while guarding a deeply personal truth that could, if exposed, destroy everything he had built. Their shared home was perhaps not only a place of connection, but also a sanctuary from the performance required everywhere else. It is important to acknowledge, as with any historical speculation lacking definitive, unambiguous proof, that the debate surrounding Grant and Scott's sexuality continues, and not everyone accepts this interpretation. Some historians and biographers argue that the photos merely show a close male friendship, which might have appeared more physically comfortable than friendships today, and that applying modern understandings and terminology of sexuality to the past is anachronistic. They might point to Scott's later stable marriage and Grant's multiple marriages and eventual fatherhood as counter-evidence. However, for many, the weight of accumulated evidence, the unusual duration and nature of their living arrangement, the revealing nature of the photographs when viewed in context, the volume of anecdotal accounts from those claiming proximity, and especially Randolph Scott's reported later acknowledgement, paints a compelling picture. It suggests, strongly, that while they publicly played the roles assigned to them by Hollywood, their private reality, centered around their shared home in Santa Monica, was one of deep, intimate, and perhaps romantic connection between two men forced by the era to keep their truest selves and their love hidden behind a carefully constructed facade of friendship and conventional relationships. The story endures because it speaks to the compelling human drama of identity concealment and the hidden lives beneath the glare of celebrity. After the significant period spent living together in the Santa Monica beach house throughout the 1930s and early 1940s, Cary Grant and Randolph Scott eventually ceased sharing a permanent residence. The exact reasons for ending the shared home life aren't definitively known, but it coincided roughly with the time Scott entered his second, long-lasting marriage in 1944, and as both men's careers continued to flourish, perhaps logistics or the increasing pressure to maintain separate, conventional lives played a role. Despite no longer living together, their deep friendship is reported to have continued for the rest of their lives, a testament to the enduring bond they shared, whatever its nature. Cary Grant's career remained at its absolute peak for many more years, making a smooth transition into his 50s and even 60s as a viable leading man, a rare feat in Hollywood. He continued to star in major films until his retirement from acting in 1966. He married several more times after his split with Scott, and notably, became a father for the first and only time at the age of 62, when his fifth wife, Diane Cannon, gave birth to their daughter, Jennifer. His later life, after retiring from the screen, was marked by a deliberate pursuit of privacy and a focus on personal growth and reflection, including famously exploring various forms of therapy. He maintained his image of dapper, witty charm in public appearances, often embarking on speaking tour until the very end. Randolph Scott, after the years sharing a home with Grant, settled into his enduring identity as a Western star, becoming particularly known for his series of critically acclaimed minimalist westerns directed by Bud Whittaker in the 1950s, often referred to as the Ranone cycle. He married Patricia Stillman in 1944, a marriage that lasted over 4 decades until his death and seemed to provide him with the domestic stability he sought. Together, they adopted 2 children. Scott retired from acting after his acclaimed role in the classic Western Ride the High Country, 1962, living a quiet, prosperous private life focused on family, astute business investment, and remaining largely out of the public eye. Despite forging separate life paths and building conventional family lives after their decade together, the fundamental bond between Cary Grant and Randolph Scott reportedly endured. Biographers and friends noted that they remained in contact and maintained their friendship until their deaths. This continued connection, spanning decades and surviving marriages and geographical distance, is seen by many as further evidence of the deep and perhaps singular significance they held for each other, a connection that transcended the more traditional relationships they later entered. Cary Grant passed away on November 29, 1986, at the age of 82, due to a stroke. Randolph Scott died shortly after, on March 2, 1987, at the age of 89, following a lengthy illness. They left the world stage within a relatively short span of time, bringing to a close a shared history that stretched back nearly 60 years to their early days as aspiring actors in Hollywood. Cary Grant remains an unparalleled legend of cinema, an icon of style, charm, and effortless sophistication whose films continue to be widely adored and studied today. But the story of his secret shared home life with Randolph Scott, the wealth of anecdotal evidence, and the persistent speculation about their sexuality has added a complex, fascinating, and, for many, deeply poignant layer to his enduring legacy. This story is far more than just gossip about the private lives of 2 famous individuals. It is a powerful narrative about the oppressive power of the Hollywood studio system to shape, control, and dictate the public image of its stars, and the potential tragic cost for those who were forced to conceal their true identities and relationships to survive and succeed in that unforgiving environment. It highlights the stark contrast that often existed between the glittering, carefully constructed facade of the golden age of Hollywood and the often painful, complex, and hidden realities faced by the individuals trapped within its confines. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott, 2 legendary icons, one shared house, and a secret that, despite the passage of time and the wealth of speculation, may never be definitively, irrefutably confirmed in a way that satisfies all historical standards. But their shared life, captured in photographs and whispered about for generations, continues to haunt, intrigue, and provoke discussion, reminding us that behind every carefully crafted legend of Hollywood, there often lies a complex, hidden human being, navigating a world that frequently demanded they conceal their truest selves and their deepest affections. Their story is a powerful, if speculative, window into the hidden history of sexuality in old Hollywood and the personal cost of living behind a carefully constructed mask of celebrity.